inside my crystal ball of desire, and know why rapid beats my heart.
I see the spark, I feel the flame of the fire, letting me know love wants to start.
Hi there, everyone. Welcome to my weekly messages. I'm Jalila Starr. Today the topic is the inner child, the physical child, the gauge of self-love. This topic came as a result of a session I had this week with a gal that we'll call Georgia. Georgia contacted me because a relationship she had in which she was planning her wedding, ended abruptly when her boyfriend mysteriously decided to end the relationship and he walked away. Now, from her perspective, it was her daughter's fault because she felt that her daughter was very needy and jealous and had driven a wedge between her and her boyfriend, whom we will call Ernie. Looking at this from a higher perspective and tuning in with her guides, we realized it wasn't Melanie's issue at all, even though Melanie was just mirroring something back. And so that's what Georgia needed to see. So what was that? Melody was showing Georgia that she was struggling to fill her own love bucket, as we call it. In other words, everybody has this bucket inside of them, this love bucket, and we have to fill it. But we're taught by society to have other people and things fill that bucket, but the truth is only we can do it. So that is done through self-love and self-care. Self-care is self-love in action. So what is self-care? What are the ways that we give ourselves, that we do self-care? Self-care is as simple as setting boundaries, saying no, setting limits. It is doing something fun for ourselves. It's maybe going and getting a massage, or it's all these things we do to nurture ourselves, to fill our own tank, to fill our own love bucket. And sometimes it's just having alone time with no demands and no requirements by anyone. Obviously, this is something that Georgia had not learned as she grew up. And I said, so it isn't necessarily that Melody is the issue. Melody's simply mirroring back to you your own level or lack of self-care. And I said, and here's why we know that. Because from the higher perspective, the children in our lives, our physical children, are a mirror to us, or a gauge of our level of self-love and self-care. They're reflecting back to us our relationship with our inner child. So if we have a child who's needy and jealous, it's because we have an inner child who's needy and jealous. And the reason they're needy and jealous is because they're not getting that energy and that love and that care and that nurturing from us that they need to survive and thrive. So when looked at it from that perspective, I said, why do you think this has happened? I said, you have to go back to your childhood. So we looked at her childhood. Well, it was obvious. She grew up as a child of two alcoholic parents. And nothing makes a child crazier than seeing the parent sitting there, but knowing the parent isn't really there. They're there physically, but they're not emotionally. So she learned very early that if she was going to get any kind of love from them, she would have to be for them in 100% and constantly be trying to fill the void for them. And as a result of that, she never learned to fill the void for herself. So she ended up growing up and drawing to her men, because from a soul level, you will always draw a partner who's at the same level of emotional availability or self-love that you are. The reason why is because that's how souls always look for mirrors. And it doesn't do any good to have somebody in your life who isn't a mirror to you of where you need, or where you've grown and where you haven't grown. So she keeps drawing men who would abandon her because they also were as needy as she was. So when they realized that she couldn't give them what they wanted, they'd go on and find somebody else. So I said, when you look at it from that perspective, it really isn't Melody, is it? I said, Melody is just a mirror for you. It's you. It's about you deciding at this point now and recognizing that you need self-nurturing and you have a right to that self-nurturing. So I said, that's what needs to be worked on. And we discussed, ways to begin to do that process. I said, so the final outcome of all this is Melody's been a perfect mirror for you. Ernie could not have stayed in the relationship because, as we learned, Ernie had just lost his wife. So he was a widower looking for someone to replace that wife and fill the empty void inside of him. So he came in very needy, just like she was very needy. And two people with empty buckets can't fill each other's bucket because they've got nothing to give. And that's what Melody was trying to express, is that she didn't have she had an empty bucket as well. And so she's trying to get love from her mom. And here's this guy, and she's going, no way. I can't get enough. You aren't going to come in and take what little bit I get. So she understood that and realized that instead of focusing on Melanie and trying to fix Melody, she needs to fix herself. And I said, and when you do that, as you do that, Melody is going to be your gauge. And you'll know when you've reached a really good level of self-love because Melody's going to learn from you. Melody's going to learn to fill her own love bucket. And at that point, you're not going to need a man. You can simply want a man, and you're going to find a man who only wants, doesn't need you. And because Melody's going to be at the same level, she's going to embrace that guy. And then you're going to end up with the relationship you want, not only with her, but with him as well. So she was cool with that. So if you're in a situation with a child who seems to be getting between you and your partner, look inside and see if maybe it's because your bucket's not full and your child is mirroring that. After all, that's what they're there for. They're your gauge. All right. Take care. Have a good week, and I'll talk to you next week.
Nobody has to tell me so. It's you.
It's you.
And you're that angel sent from heaven above.